Did you know there was a gorilla who could communicate with humans using sign language? A gorilla who understood spoken English, remembered people years after meeting them, showed humor, affection, and grief, and even asked questions about death. Her name was Koko, and for more than 40 years, she lived under close observation, becoming one of the most studied and controversial animals in history. Koko was not a myth, and she was not a performance. She was a real Western Lowland gorilla whose life was documented by researchers, filmed by National Geographic, and followed by millions of people around the world. Yet, despite decades of study, scientists still debate what Koko truly understood and what her abilities mean. This is the story of Koko the gorilla, from her difficult beginnings to the remarkable way she learned to communicate, and the lasting impact she had on how humans understand animal intelligence, emotion, and awareness. Before Koko was born, scientists believed there was a clear line between humans and animals. Humans were thought to possess intelligence, emotion, and language, while animals were believed to act mostly on instinct. Even when animals appeared to show affection or grief, those behaviors were often dismissed as coincidence or human projection. Language was considered the strongest dividing line. Many researchers believed animals could be trained to respond to symbols, but not that they could truly understand or use language with meaning. Communication, memory, and abstract thought were seen as uniquely human traits. Among the great apes, chimpanzees had begun to challenge these ideas through tool use and problem-solving. Gorillas, however, were largely overlooked. Their calm and quiet nature was often mistaken for a lack of intelligence, and few scientists believed they were capable of complex communication. This was the world Koko entered, a world that did not expect a gorilla to challenge what humans believed about intelligence, emotion, or language. Koko was born on July 4, 1971, at the San Francisco Zoo. While fireworks lit the sky across the United States in celebration of Independence Day, her birth passed quietly, unnoticed by the crowds beyond the zoo. She was given the name Hanabi-ko, a Japanese phrase meaning fireworks child. At the time, Koko was not seen as remarkable. She was simply a young Western Lowland gorilla born in captivity, one of many animals housed at the zoo. There were no expectations that she would become the subject of groundbreaking research or global attention. Even in her earliest days, caretakers noted that Koko was calm and observant. She often watched her surroundings rather than reacting impulsively, showing a steady focus that would later become one of her defining traits. Still, nothing about her birth suggested that she would grow up to challenge long-held beliefs about animal intelligence. Within weeks, however, Koko's life would take a difficult turn. Illness and separation would shape her early development, setting the stage for a childhood defined not by stability, but by loss and isolation. Not long after her birth, Koko became seriously ill and had to be separated from her mother for medical treatment. In the wild, such separation is rare. Gorilla mothers remain in constant contact with their infants, providing warmth, protection, and security. Even brief separations can be distressing. When Koko was strong enough to be reintroduced, caretakers expected her mother's instincts to take over. Instead, her mother rejected her. There was no attempt to retrieve her, no recognition, and no effort to resume the bond. Caretakers tried multiple times, but the rejection continued. With no maternal care available, Koko was placed among unfamiliar gorillas. She was too young to integrate naturally, and the other gorillas did not accept her. As a result, she spent much of her early life isolated at a critical stage of development. During this period, caretakers noticed Koko clinging to a stuffed toy gorilla, holding it close for comfort. The behavior was not playful. It appeared to serve as a substitute for the contact she had lost. This early separation and isolation would shape how Koko interacted with the world long before she learned to communicate. In 1972, a Stanford University graduate student named Francine Penny Patterson began working with Koko. Patterson was studying communication in great apes and was interested in whether non-human animals could learn symbolic language, an idea that many scientists considered highly controversial. At the time, language was viewed as a uniquely human trait. Critics argued that animals could be trained to respond to symbols, but could not truly understand or use them meaningfully. Patterson was aware of these concerns, but she believed the question deserved careful study rather than dismissal. From the beginning, Patterson approached Koko cautiously. She focused on building trust rather than testing limits, spending long periods observing Koko's behavior and reactions. She noted Koko's calm attention and responsiveness, qualities that suggested the gorilla might be capable of sustained learning. This partnership marked a turning point. Koko was no longer simply an isolated young gorilla in captivity. Under Patterson's guidance, she was about to be introduced to a form of communication that would change the direction of her life and draw worldwide attention. Teaching Koko to communicate required an approach very different from that used with humans or other apes. From the beginning, Koko resisted having her hands physically guided into signs. As a result, Penny Patterson relied entirely on demonstration, repetition, and patience. Patterson showed Koko objects and repeatedly performed the corresponding signs, often hundreds of times, without forcing a response. Progress was slow and inconsistent, with long periods showing little visible change. Learning depended entirely on Koko's willingness to participate. The first clear breakthrough came when Koko produced the sign for drink. Rather than copying a movement for a reward, she used the sign intentionally to communicate a need. This moment marked the shift from passive observation to active communication. From that point forward, Koko became more engaged, watching closely and attempting signs more frequently. Communication was no longer one-sided. It had become a shared process shaped by Koko's choices as much as by instruction. As Koko's understanding of signs grew, her communication began to extend beyond formal teaching sessions. She started using signs spontaneously throughout the day, without prompts or structured lessons. Language was no longer limited to training. It became part of how she interacted with her environment. Koko used signs to request food, toys, or attention, and to indicate when she wanted an activity to stop. She also used language to express preferences and dislikes, showing consistency in how she communicated these choices. Caretakers noted that many of her signs were initiated independently rather than in response to questions. In addition to signing, Koko appeared to understand a large amount of spoken English. She often responded appropriately to verbal instructions, even when no signs were used. Over time, researchers estimated that she comprehended thousands of spoken words, suggesting that her communication involved meaning rather than simple imitation. Koko also used language socially. She signed to familiar caregivers and appeared to recognize individuals by name. These interactions indicated that her communication was not limited to immediate needs, but played a role in maintaining relationships. By this stage, Koko's use of language had become part of her daily routine. Communication was no longer an experiment. It was a regular feature of her life, shaping how she related to the people around her. As Koko's vocabulary expanded, researchers noticed something unexpected. When she encountered objects she did not have a specific sign for, she did not stop communicating. Instead, she combined familiar signs to describe new things. One of the most cited examples involved a ring. Rather than waiting to be taught a new sign, Koko signed finger bracelet. When shown a mask, she signed eye hat. Ice cream became cold candy. These descriptions focused on function and appearance rather than memorized labels. These combinations were consistent and logical. They suggested that Koko was analyzing unfamiliar objects and using known concepts to represent them. This ability to create new meanings from existing symbols became a central point in debates about her cognitive abilities. Caretakers also observed Koko signing when she was alone, repeating signs quietly during play or rest. With no audience or reward present, the behavior appeared self-directed rather than performative. For supporters, these moments indicated abstract thinking and genuine understanding. For critics, they raised questions about interpretation. Regardless of perspective, Koko's ability to invent and apply new signs challenged long-standing assumptions about how animals process and communicate information. As Koko became more comfortable communicating, caretakers observed behavior that suggested she understood social expectations and occasionally chose to challenge them. These moments often appeared playful rather than accidental. One well-known example occurred during a color identification exercise. After correctly identifying several objects, Koko was shown a white cloth. Instead of signing white, she signed red. When corrected, she repeated the sign. After being warned she would lose apple juice, Koko removed a tiny piece of red lint from the cloth and emphatically signed red, accompanied by clear gorilla laughter. The incident suggested intentional misdirection rather than confusion. Koko appeared to recognize the rule and deliberately exploit a technicality for humor. When corrected afterward, she understood the reprimand and adjusted her behavior. Caretakers reported similar playful behavior in other situations, including teasing and mild name-calling through signs. These actions were often followed by signs of amusement and, when necessary, apologies. As Koko's communication became more natural, she also began to express clear social judgments. She was not neutral when evaluating others. When shown images or videos of potential male gorillas and asked what she thought, Koko responded with unmistakable disapproval. In one documented exchange, she combined signs translated as bad and toilet, a dismissive phrase she used elsewhere to describe things she found unpleasant or worthless. The response was not prompted or corrected. It reflected preference, evaluation, and intent. Koko was not simply labeling what she saw, she was offering an opinion. Humor requires an understanding of expectations and the ability to violate them intentionally. For many observers, these moments offered compelling evidence that Koko's communication involved choice, awareness, and social understanding rather than simple conditioned response. In addition to her communication skills, Koko was known for her calm and steady temperament. Unlike the aggressive or unpredictable image often associated with gorillas, she was generally gentle, patient, and attentive in her interactions. Caretakers frequently noted her relaxed posture and measured movements. Koko appeared sensitive to social context and physical presence. She often indicated where she wanted people to sit or stand and signaled when she wanted interaction to begin or end. These preferences were communicated clearly and consistently, suggesting awareness of personal space and comfort. During a visit by primatologist Jane Goodall, the question of human posture around apes was raised. When asked whether she preferred people to stand or sit, Koko indicated that she preferred people to lie down, reducing perceived dominance even further. The response suggested sensitivity to power dynamics rather than a simple preference. These observations highlighted an often overlooked aspect of intelligence: social awareness. Koko did not simply respond to commands or stimuli. She navigated interactions deliberately, signaling comfort, boundaries, and preference in ways that shaped her environment. As Koko's abilities became more widely known, interest in her life extended beyond the research setting. What began as a careful scientific study started to attract attention from journalists, filmmakers, and the general public. Koko was no longer only a subject of research, she was becoming a public figure. Koko was eventually moved from the San Francisco Zoo to facilities associated with Stanford University and later to a reserve in the Santa Cruz Mountains. These environments allowed for long-term study while offering more stability than a traditional zoo setting. Around this time, Francine Patterson and her collaborators founded the Gorilla Foundation to support the research and conservation work connected to Koko. Media coverage increased steadily. Koko appeared in documentaries and interviews, and her story reached a global audience. She was featured twice on the cover of National Geographic magazine, an unprecedented level of visibility for a gorilla. One cover featured a photograph Koko took herself using a mirror, while another highlighted her bond with a kitten. With fame came debate. Supporters viewed Koko as evidence that animals possessed far greater cognitive and emotional depth than previously believed. Critics questioned whether her abilities were being overstated. Koko became both admired and scrutinized, celebrated and challenged at the same time. Despite the attention, Koko's daily life remained largely unchanged. Away from cameras, she continued to communicate with her caregivers, engage in familiar routines, and interact on her own terms. Public interest transformed how the world viewed Koko, but it did not change who she was. In 1984, Koko made a request that surprised her caregivers. For her birthday, she asked for a kitten. When she was first given a toy kitten, she rejected it, making it clear that she wanted a living animal. Several kittens were then brought to her so she could choose. Koko examined each kitten carefully before selecting a small gray kitten with no tail. She named him All Ball. From that point on, Koko treated the kitten with noticeable care. She carried him gently, adjusted her movements around him, and kept him close throughout the day. Caretakers monitored the interaction closely, but Koko consistently showed restraint and awareness of her strength. Later that same year, All Ball escaped the enclosure and was hit by a car. When Koko was informed of his death, her reaction was immediate. She became quiet, then began making low, mournful vocalizations associated with distress in gorillas. She signed "sad," "bad," and repeatedly "sleep cat," pressing her hands to her cheek. In the days that followed, Koko withdrew and showed little interest in food or play. Caretakers described her behavior as consistent with mourning. This episode became one of the most widely cited examples of emotional expression in a non-human animal, and played a central role in how the public understood Koko's emotional life. Beyond communication, Koko showed interest in activities that did not serve any practical purpose. Caretakers introduced art materials and simple musical instruments as enrichment, allowing her to engage freely rather than as part of a test. Koko often chose to draw or paint during quiet periods. Given paper and crayons or brushes, she made deliberate marks and appeared focused on the activity itself. While her drawings were simple, caretakers noted that they were intentional rather than random. Another gorilla raised alongside her, Michael, also painted, though with a more methodical approach, highlighting individual differences in expression. Koko also experimented with musical instruments, including a harmonica and toy flutes. In later years, she was observed blowing into a recorder and producing sound, something previously thought to be difficult for gorillas due to their respiratory anatomy. The behavior suggested curiosity and physical adaptability rather than training. These creative activities were voluntary. Koko chose when to participate and when to stop, indicating that they were meaningful to her rather than responses to instruction. Through play, art, and music, she demonstrated another dimension of engagement with her environment, reinforcing the view that her intelligence extended beyond language alone. One of the most widely used measures of self-awareness in animals is the mirror recognition test. In this test, individuals are observed to see whether they treat their reflection as another animal or recognize it as themselves. Most animals react to mirrors with confusion, aggression, or social displays. Koko's reaction was different. When exposed to mirrors, she remained calm and attentive. Rather than posturing or vocalizing, she used the mirror to examine her own body, focusing on areas she could not normally see. Over time, caretakers observed that she treated the reflection as her own image rather than as another gorilla. Koko also used mirrors deliberately, adjusting her posture or appearance while watching her reflection. These behaviors suggested an understanding that the image corresponded to herself, meeting commonly accepted criteria for mirror self-recognition. While the mirror test does not define consciousness on its own, Koko's responses placed her among a small number of non-human animals that have demonstrated this level of self-awareness. Combined with her communication and emotional behavior, these observations added further evidence that Koko possessed a complex inner life. Over the course of her life, Koko formed strong and lasting relationships with the people who worked with her. These bonds developed gradually through daily interaction and consistent communication. Caretakers reported that Koko appeared to recognize familiar individuals and responded differently to people she knew well compared to strangers. Koko often initiated interaction using sign language. She requested attention, expressed affection, and also signaled when she wanted to be left alone. Her communication showed sensitivity to emotional tone, with different responses to calm or tense behavior from those around her. These interactions suggested mutual awareness rather than simple conditioning. One of Koko's most well-known human interactions occurred in 2001 when she met comedian and actor Robin Williams. Video of the meeting shows the two engaging playfully, laughing and exchanging gestures. Williams later described the experience as deeply meaningful, saying they shared laughter. Caretakers reported that Koko remembered Williams long after the visit. When she later saw him on television, she recognized him and signed his name. In 2014, when Williams died, Koko's caregivers said she became noticeably subdued after being told the news. She signed cry and sad and withdrew from interaction for a period of time. These relationships showed that Koko's communication extended beyond functional needs. She formed social bonds, remembered individuals across time, and responded emotionally to loss, reinforcing the view that her inner life included attachment and memory. As Koko grew older, her communication began to include references to death, a subject rarely explored in studies of animal cognition. Caretakers reported several instances in which Koko appeared to understand the difference between living and non-living beings. In one documented interaction, a caregiver showed Koko a skeleton and asked whether it was alive or dead. Koko signed dead and added draped, a sign she used to mean covered. When asked where animals go when they die, Koko responded with a comfortable hole, then blew a kiss goodbye. The exchange was calm and deliberate, without signs of confusion or distress. On another occasion, when shown a skull and asked whose it was, Koko signed gorilla, followed by dead. These responses were consistent with earlier interactions and suggested a stable concept rather than a one-time reaction. While it is impossible to know exactly how Koko understood death, her responses indicated more than simple word association. She appeared to grasp death as a permanent state and to associate it with absence and farewell. These moments became some of the most striking aspects of Koko's story. They raised difficult questions about how animals perceive mortality and whether the capacity to reflect on death is limited to humans alone. After Koko's death, a video began circulating widely online, often described as showing her final words to humanity. In the video, Koko signs a message about loving the earth and urging people to protect nature. Many viewers interpreted it as a spontaneous farewell and a warning from a gorilla who understood the damage humans were causing to the planet. However, the context of the video is important. The message was recorded earlier as part of a public service announcement connected to environmental awareness efforts. Koko was given a structured sequence of signs to communicate, rather than speaking freely in the moment. As a result, the video does not represent Koko's final unscripted words. Even so, the video resonated deeply with audiences around the world. For many people, it symbolized what Koko had come to represent: a bridge between humans and the natural world, and a reminder that animals are affected by human actions. Whether scripted or not, the message reflected themes that had been present throughout Koko's life: connection, awareness, and concern for the living world around her. The controversy surrounding the video did little to diminish its impact, and instead highlighted how strongly people felt about what Koko seemed to represent. As Koko's fame grew, so did questions about the conditions of her life. While she was not kept in a traditional zoo enclosure for most of her life, she still lived in captivity, separated from wild gorillas and a natural social group. Some critics argued that this isolation came at a cost. Researchers and caregivers countered that Koko received constant attention, enrichment, and medical care, and that her living environment was designed to meet her physical and emotional needs. They pointed to her long lifespan, calm behavior, and strong bonds with caregivers as evidence that she was well cared for. Others took a more cautious view. They acknowledged Koko's importance while questioning whether the pursuit of knowledge justified raising a highly intelligent and emotionally complex animal in an unnatural setting. These discussions reflected a broader debate in science about the ethics of studying sentient animals. Koko's life forced researchers and the public alike to confront uncomfortable questions. If animals are capable of complex thought and emotion, then human responsibility toward them must also be more complex. Koko did not provide easy answers, but her existence made those questions impossible to ignore. On the morning of June 19, 2018, Koko died peacefully in her sleep. She was 46 years old, an age slightly older than most gorillas live in the wild. According to the Gorilla Foundation, she showed no signs of distress and had spent the previous day calm and relaxed. In her later years, Koko had experienced age-related health issues, including arthritis and respiratory problems. Despite this, caretakers reported that she remained engaged and responsive, continuing to communicate and interact with those around her. News of Koko's death spread quickly around the world. Scientists, conservationists, and members of the public reflected on her life and the questions it raised. Tributes emphasized not only her intelligence, but her emotional presence and the connections she formed with humans. For those who had worked with her daily, Koko's passing marked the end of a relationship that had lasted decades. For the wider public, it marked the loss of a figure who had come to symbolize the possibility of understanding across species. After Koko's death, her impact continued to be felt across science, conservation, and public understanding of animals. Researchers reflected on how her life challenged long-standing assumptions about intelligence, communication, and emotion in non-human species. For many, Koko became a reference point, not because she answered every question, but because she made certain questions impossible to ignore. Scientific journals noted that Koko helped change how animal cognition was discussed, particularly in relation to empathy and emotional expression. Her story encouraged more cautious language when dismissing animal behavior as purely instinctive. It also contributed to broader conversations about conservation, especially for Western Lowland Gorillas, a critically endangered species. Jane Goodall summarized Koko's impact, simply saying, "Koko, you taught us much about the gorilla intellect. You were much loved. You will be missed." The statement reflected a growing recognition that intelligence and emotion are not exclusive to humans but part of a wider continuum of life. Koko did not leave behind a single defining message. Instead, she left a body of evidence, decades of interaction, observation, and documentation. Her life suggested that listening matters, even when the voice speaking back is not human. In the end, Koko's legacy is not just about what she could do, but about what she asked of us: to look again, to listen more carefully, and to reconsider how we understand the minds and lives of the animals we share this planet with.